Let's take one more breath. We pause in this moment to be present. To bring our full awareness and attention to this moment. We give ourselves permission to be here in every sense of the word. Here in this rich discussion and conversation. Here in these body temples. Here in our own individual journeys in life. Here in this great moment of societal transformation. Here in this time of human evolution, just here. How sweet it is. And we know that we come here together to transcend. We come here together to go deep, to retrofit our roots. We come here to cleanse and to clear and to purge and to purify. We come here to strengthen and to renew. Create in us a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within us. No longer pushed by pain, but pulled by pure vision. You're ready to take off the blinders. We're willing to see with our third eye, not just our natural eyes. We come here to usher in the beloved community, to stand for and in the consciousness and the vibration of oneness. Unequivocally, without exception. To lean in it, to rest in it, to proclaim it, to live it, to be it. Anything at cross purposes with this deep intent cannot enter into this space. There's no fertile ground here for cross purposes. We declare everything that happens here to be good and very, very good. We get out of the way, we allow it to be, and so it is. So it is. Good, good, and very good. So, I love it. We have people who are with us online. We have people who are with us on the telephone. We have people who are with us here. And we've been covering a bit of ground now for the past 6 or 7 sessions. I've kind of lost track here now. But we've been going deep. And I want to say thank you to the brave who've had the courage to keep coming back. And before we go on with a little bit of new stuff, new things, and continuing the discussions, I want to do a little check-in. And I want to check in and get a few people to share with us just briefly, what are some of the things that you're learning? What are some of the things that you're growing to understand now? And any differences that it may be making in your life? Anybody? Okay, I see Elizabeth online. Let's bring her in.
Yeah, what strikes me, compassion. I am learning to be compassionate, have a deeper compassion for not only me, but for all the people that I'm judging and condemning.
Yes.
Everyone who wrong, and yeah. So it helps me to see the humanity, the human side of all of this. That it's not pure evil, which I can, sometimes I get what's happening from the news and I'm thinking, oh my God, is there evil out there, And now I see it is people who are in situations who they do not know how to control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Very, 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 very good. So I'm going to ask you one more question. How does being more compassionate feel to you? What difference is it making to you and how you show up?
Oh, you are beautiful. Thank you. So it helps me to look again. It helps me to think again. And it helps me to be compassionate with myself as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So it's helping me with patience and a deeper understanding and a deeper love. And actually, I now see that humanity is the word. Is not as evil as I thought it was. It is human beings in situations that they don't see how they got in there, and they obviously don't have the tools to get themselves out of.
Very good. Yay! So you're probably the furthest one away in Norway, but there's no time or space in consciousness or distance. Yay!
Amen.
All right. A couple more people share what it is that you're learning. Okay, give us your name.
Hi, I'm Milo, and I'm really struck by the obvious truth that a global society has to actually include the whole globe. And what I notice is that as my consciousness is shifting, I feel so good. And where I was trembling sort of in my initial questions that I shared, why is Barack Obama considered Black? And I was looking to bring my own community into where I am. I don't tremble. I am standing here in my authority as a co-creator with God. And I so long to be a part of this instrumental social reform.
Yay! Yay! Okay, Kaylee's got her hand up. Let's do Kaylee.
So, my name is Kaylee, and I am learning that all my desire to do things by myself, I was never going to get anywhere. But when we come together and we share a common vision, all things are possible. And I also realized how I have put a ceiling on what is possible, thinking, oh, that will never change. But when we have the demand for change, when collectively we demand change, change is going to come. And I think as progressives, we have been too timid and too accepting. There's some things that, to tell you the truth, are not acceptable to me, and I have been silent. And it's time that I stop being silent and say, you are wonderful, you are a child of God, and these cultural norms no longer suit us as humanity, and it's time to get rid of them. Not disassemble them, but I've also learned that we can be the new founding mothers and fathers, not of a revolution, but of a cultural change. Not of a violent revolution, but of a cultural revolution. We have the power to do this, and I know that now.
Yes. Very good. Very good. I'm going to give some examples from that, from my own my own life experience in the court system. Russell?
Yeah, I was struck by the intensity of our forefathers' strong feelings that blacks weren't human, that Indians, Native Americans were savages, that has been propagated over and over, that only white male, free white males can be citizens. You know, that whole, because I was raised with the Constitution, you know, it's like, was everybody's equal. But I now see that that was my ignorance. I was just taught that by my parents, who were also ignorant, that if I do not acknowledge that some of our citizens have not had it as easy as I have as a white male, that if I just dismiss it and say, well, I don't see you as black, or I don't see you as this, I'm not acknowledging the fact that there is a difference, and there is a huge gap that we need to share, that my obligation with my resources that I have because I'm white and a male is to make sure that we get these resources distributed where all of our citizens are treated in the same vein, with the same rights.
Well, Shazam! Zay!
It wasn't yesterday at lunch. Because I feel nervous. I feel depressed because I'm the most, you know, I've been living in the American dream. I always, you know, everybody's got the same advantages. You want to make money? I'll go to the bank, borrow some. You know, I always get the best wages. I always get this. I never considered any other way. So didn't know. So I've got the biggest mask and the biggest fog on me. So it's nice to have some sunlight on my face.
Well, Shazam, baby. Okay, we'll take one more here and then we'll go back to those online.
Yeah, 4 pages in notes, but what really stands out was, I'm sorry, pulling it is pain pushes until vision pulls, and I'm going up the vortex, and something came to my consciousness that had never come to me before, like blindsided the other day, that I've always felt equal as a woman. I've never once in my whole life, never even one time felt myself not as completely equal. But I realized that I've been subject to discrimination because I'm blonde, and making blonde jokes, and I'm stupid because I have blonde hair, and I've actually laughed at blonde jokes before, and that consciousness was like, oh, you know, I wasn't even aware of this, actually. I just accepted it, and it's not okay, you know? So I'm excited for the greater vision and being part of it. It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to say something? Yeah.
Yes, I'm Callie. Hi, everybody. I want my old neighborhood back. My old neighborhood where I was born. I was born in West LA, and it really was a melting pot. It consisted of, there was my family and one other white family, and except we weren't all that white, as I just found out later on. And there were Armenians, there were Orientals, there were blacks, there were browns, there was, you name it, we were all there. And it was lovely because the children played together. Our neighbors watched out for each other's kids. It was my world. It was like 5 blocks of my world. I want my neighborhood back, and I'm getting it back little by little. Little by little. I'm consciously creating and manifesting in my life the kind of neighborhood I want to live in, but I want it to be global.
All right. Very good. Anybody else online or on the telephone want to chip in about some of the things that you've been learning? If you're on the telephone, unmute yourself.
I just unmuted myself.
Okay.
What I'm learning is that while I thought I understood the concept of pain pushes to vision pulls, we've shared that concept for many years. What I have realized over the course of this class is that I need to have a vision for everything, not just a global, which is phenomenal, yes, to have a global vision, but I am going to my daughter's wedding in a couple of weeks, and there are some things that could be difficult, and I realized I have been letting the pain push me around what that's going to look like, and I have decided that I need to have, and I will have, a vision for what I know that can look like. So for me, it was about taking it to every level of my life and saying, what is my vision for this and for everything, just everything. And that's been huge. Thanks.
Very good. And what's your name?
Valerie Hayes.
Very good. Yes, yes, yes. We'll take one more. Anybody else on the telephone or online that wants to chime in?
This is Ade.
Ade.
Hello there.
Hello.
For some reason, I can't get on Zoom. It keeps giving me the option to leave, and I'm saying I want to get in, not leave. I'm part of one.
Ade, you're sounding a little bit muffled. Can you get closer to your microphone?
Let's see. Let me take my earpiece off. Okay, how about this?
Yeah, that's better. Are you back in Atlanta?
Yes, I am. I just can't get on Zoom because it keeps giving me an option to leave rather than enter. So that's why I'm using my phone. But I'm going to keep playing with it till I get in. I refuse to be kept out. What have I been learning? What have I learned from this? In a nutshell, I mean, I've always felt like just as this. I feel like there's been a call inside of me so big that I've always felt too small to even pay attention to. And for the benefit of others, when the shooting that happened a few months ago of the guy in Louisiana got shot and I saw the video, I just started crying. And I sent her text right after I saw it, sent a text to Rev D, because I felt so brokenhearted, and it's like, I know it can be better, but I felt confused. Now, what I'm learning here is it's like putting the puzzles together for me and the map to navigate and be able to pay attention to that deeper call, not only as it relates to socially, but in my personal relationship, because I'm really applying it, because I have some wonderful teachers in my life who were telling me, you're here to learn something great. And I used to tell them, no, no, no. But now I realize I need to listen differently. So for me, I'm learning how to be from that place of oneness. Good. When there is a judgment of the other, I can at least check myself saying, what's going on with me? And it brings me hope and the excitement of what we're creating.
Good. This is good, 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 good. I love it. Very good. So we've been covering some really tough ground lately, as we've been talking about the Dred Scott decision in particular, looking at some of the consciousness that's underneath the sort of socio-political climate of the day, not just in the United States, but really around the world. And we're doing it so that we don't just chase after symptoms. If we don't get down to some of the root causations, we're going to be off. My mentor, the Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, always taught us that there's only one thing that ever needs to be healed: the sense of separation. The only thing that ever needs to be healed is the sense of separation. Separation from our good, separation from each other, whatever that is, just pure separation. You were asked to read a letter out of one of my books, Your Deepest Intent. And this particular letter was on divine design. And it was pointing to this thing that we were talking about in terms of this sense of separation. And I'm going to read from page 302, section 5, just a couple of paragraphs there. And this, it's starting to talk here about, actually I'm going to start one earlier on number 4, okay, where it's talking about how don't believe everything that you think, okay, and that you have to come from a standpoint of oneness and wholeness, and there is nothing that's Pollyannish about that, and that you can't, quote unquote, fix something without getting into the mind of the designer. If you want to get something working right, you have to understand a little bit about the intent of the one who put it together in the first place. So this letter is saying that if you want to try to make a difference, quote unquote, in the world, then you have to be in harmony with what was the intent of how things were put together in the first place. So it starts here in section 4. It says, well, I, the Mother, Father, God, creator of all things, am the master designer. You can't even attempt to, quote unquote, fix something without understanding my design. This is what is most problematic in your Western approach to medicine. You have compartmentalized the body into so many fractions that as you attempt to, quote unquote, fix one part of the body, you set into motion a negative chain effect throughout the other parts of the body that you label as side effects. You are attempting to address just one aspect of the body without taking into consideration the interrelatedness of the whole. You treat your bodies the way that you treat your lives. A significant percentage of the so-called illnesses and ailments in your society are direct results of medical interventions that created yet another problem. The medicines that you ingest to, quote unquote, fix one thing, push something else out of balance. Then you take more medication to try to offset the disturbance of the imbalance, which sets off something else. You learn to, quote unquote, just live with it all. And in your minds, you pick and choose priorities of pain. Listen to that. You pick and choose priorities of pain. What you cannot tolerate, you seek to do something about. If it appears bearable, you do just that, bear it. More so than, quote unquote, grin and bear it. Then it says in parentheses, it is amazing how that became an idiomatic expression in your English language because there is so little grinning going on as you merely bear. End of parentheses. Likewise, many of the maladies that you undergo at the emotional, psychological, physical, financial, political, social, religious, and other levels are all byproducts of your own interventions. In trying to, quote unquote, fix one thing, you set some entirely other thing into motion. For example, take something like racism. The social construct of race was developed to justify the transatlantic slave trade. It did not begin as a desire to discriminate against a whole race of creation. I use the word, quote unquote, creation and not, quote unquote, people, because the humanity of the people from the continent of Africa was denied as being a reality. Racism began as a tool to fix something. What needed to be fixed? The Caucasians of the colonialist and imperialistic European nations did not believe that they were enough. They did not believe that they had enough. They feared that they would never be enough. This was true at all levels of societal hierarchical structure. There was a need to do things to externally elevate themselves. Their sense of wealth was going to come from pirating resources, including labor forces from other countries. Labor was considered a resource, just like gold, coal, or lumber. They felt it their right to just move things around and distribute them through the world in ways that were to their own advantage. They were required in their minds to do all sorts of things in their efforts to try to fix their stations and circumstances in life. They had a priority of pain. As long as their own pains were addressed, the pains that they caused, the side effects of their actions, they had little response to. Even when they did try to offset the rippling effects, there was a threshold at which they decided that the side effects were in fact bearable. I'm going to say that again. They had a priority of pain. And remember, this is not just about Western Europeans. This is the way human beings operate, using them as a case study. They had a priority of pain. As long as their own pains were addressed, the pains that they caused, the side effects of their actions, they did not have a response to. Even when they did try to offset the rippling effects, there was a threshold at which they decided that the side effects were in fact bearable. Their disassociation from the understanding that these Africans and African descendants that they were oppressing were in fact part of the human race allowed them to disassociate themselves from the pain that they were actually inflicting. There was no sharing of the burdens of the pain. And then it goes on to talk about how this works. Okay? Breathe this in for a moment. Breathe this in. A hierarchy of pain. A hierarchy of pain. So when you have this notion, and our capitalistic economic system is based upon these three premises. Economics is not a natural science, it is a social science. Racism is a construct born out of socio-economic politics. You can never disassociate race and economics, because it was a construct developed to support a particular economic system, what we have come to know of as capitalism. And at the root of capitalism are these three tenets. One, resources are scarce. Two, more is always better than less. Three, each and every person always operates in their own self-interest. Economics is a social science. It is a social science, and it is predicated upon a certain understanding of human nature and the natural order of things. So you see how a construct like this of economics gets created when we're having this rise about racism and a transatlantic slave trade, because it tells me if I'm at the top of the food chain and it is proper and right to operate in my own self-interest, and resources are scarce, and more is always better than less, it gives me a license, an unprecedented license, to make sure that I have the resources, that I hoard the resources, and that it is a good and proper thing to do. It is the right thing to do. So you make everything that you possibly can a resource. The whole entire planet, it's water, it's lumber, it's gold, it's creatures, it's riverways, it's oceans, it's people, you know, as much as you can possibly control and do in your own self-interest. Now, here's the tricky part about this, is this compartmentalization. When we don't have a sense of things as interconnected and related to one another, there's this either or. There's a disconnect. A disconnect. Remember, we said at the root of all of the isms was this notion of mutually exclusive groups that have inherent differences between each other, such that there is justification for why those groups shouldn't be treated the same. It's that same logic that just keeps playing through over and over and over again. There's the planet, and then there's humanity. Completely separate and mutually exclusive. So what I do to the planet doesn't really impact me as a person, because humanity and the planet are mutually exclusive. It doesn't matter what I do to the animals, because the animals and humanity are mutually exclusive. There's no interdependence that's there. And with this interventionist fix-it mentality that we have, in our efforts to solve one thing, we set these other things into motion that don't really matter, because we're trying to fix this other thing. So I'm going home tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to LA. And whereas my mother never looked at television growing up, now that she's elderly and doesn't get around a lot, she looks at TV all the time. And the stations that she looks at are really preying, not with an A, with an E, on elderly people. And it's advertisements for one medication after another medication after another medication, which personally I think should be illegal.
It was.
Regardless of the fact that my father practiced pharmacy for 58 years. To advertise a product to people that they can't actually buy, you know, without having to go through a doctor for a subscription, to me shouldn't even be legal. But you look at these commercials. So if you're feeling depressed, take this particular pill. May cause suicidal tendencies. Yeah. You know, may be fatal, may cause heart attacks, may do that. The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
You know, if you're awake more than 90 days, you know, this may be a sign of something. And you go, oh my God. But they're showing you imagery of people, you know, dancing and having good cups of coffee and all of the rest of that kind of stuff. But it's to say this disconnect, how, yeah, you may be trying to solve this one thing and you set all these other things into motion that somehow or another you can deny, not pay any attention to, and then as it says in the book, it sets these series of things in motion. So now you get all these other diseases. Now you get all these other illnesses. It's estimated that 30% of all hospitalizations are hospitalizations that are due to the negative side effects of some other medical intervention. We do the same thing politically. We do the same thing socially. In war, we call it collateral damage. Collateral damage. It just amazes me. Some of the talk now going on about we shouldn't support our NATO nations because they're not carrying their fair share of the burden of our protecting them. Yet we cause millions of refugees and will not take a single one of them into the United States. And all of those nations are picking up the tab for our invasion war efforts. But it doesn't matter. It's collateral damage. You hear this boasting that we do about having executed Osama bin Laden. What you don't hear is that we invaded a foreign country without their consent, that at least reported 25 people were killed in that attack on him, including at least one of his wives and God knows how many of his children. Nobody talks about that. And we call it justice. No trial, nothing. This notion of the collateral damage, that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the side effects. It doesn't matter what else we set into motion as long as my needs were met. Now, I want to say something more about this before I open it up. When you are a society that believes yourself to be just and fair, how can you reconcile this? How do you reconcile this? We've talked at different times about this notion of cognitive dissonance, where you can't hold in your mind these conflicting things. So, for example, if you're Jewish and I don't like Jews, I got a state of cognitive dissonance going on. You're gay, I don't like gay people, I've got cognitive dissonance going on. So in order to reconcile that, either I have to change my opinion and stop saying I don't like gays categorically, because there's one I do like, or somehow or another, you're not quite as gay as the rest of them. There's some kind of exception there. So if I believe I treat all human beings wonderfully and fairly, but you're not being treated as fairly, either I have to admit that somehow or another we are not as fair as we say that we are, or somehow or another you're not quite as human as the rest of us. that there's something about you that is the justification for why you're not treated quite the same as the rest of us. So then it becomes about you. Like, what's wrong with you and why it is that you don't quite qualify for this cognitive dissonance. Are you with me? We can't see the side effects. We can't see what we've set into motion. Because if we did, we'd have to take ownership of it. If we did, we would have to admit what's going on. And once we get too deep off into these isms, it becomes the equivalent of addictive behavior. And all of the stuff that we know of addiction, where we go into denial. And not only we go into denial, there's this twisted reasoning that we do that justifies our behavior so that things that are actually bad, we twist them around so they're a benefit. That it's actually a good thing that I'm drinking right now, or it's a good thing that I'm not talking to my sister for 20 years, or it's a good thing, like whatever this particular thing is, there's this twisted logic that goes on that gets us to try to protect our own sense of self-esteem. So just breathe on that for a moment. So this work is hard. This work is hard because we think it's about helping these other marginalized people. But that's not the real work. The real work is confronting whatever that is that has allowed us to be in denial for so long. The real work becomes, what do we have to do to actually live in the oneness? Now, there's one more thing I want to say here, and it's in response to what Russell had said earlier about that he really got it yesterday at lunch. I went someplace that frankly I haven't gone before, and I'm going to go there again now, where we were talking about that idea of I don't see something. Like, I don't see race. And I told you a few weeks ago, don't ever say that. Please don't say that. And particularly not to a person of color. How you don't see race as a way to elevate yourself, that you're above all those other white people. Still supremacy. I'm not as white as those other white people. Listen, that same kind of logic. How do I reconcile that I'm white people are thinking this way? Well, then I'm not as white as they are. Okay, this reconciliation I was just talking about. And for the cognitive dissonance. But what people hear, take a deep breath. This is what the person you're trying to comfort hears. I am so self-absorbed in my own reality that I am blind. That I lack the capacity to see anything else. That I am so wedded in my own worldview that I am projecting that out onto everybody. And I'm assuming that whatever my life experience has been, privileges, entitlements, it is available to everyone, and I cannot see anything else. What they hear is, because I can't see, I am going to collude with the status quo. I won't stand up for you. I will not protect you. I won't do anything to try to make life better for you because I don't know that it needs to be done. And I don't perceive myself as being one of the people who's being called upon to do it. You cannot count on me to be your ally. I do not have your back. And in those moments, when the discussions are going on about race or whatever, there's a good chance I'm going to be silent. And I'm not going to challenge. And I'm not going to do anything else because I don't see it. Now, if I'm walking down the street and I pass somebody, I can tell you a lot about them. I can see whether they're young or old. I can see whether they're tall or short. I can see what they're wearing, if they've got long hair or beard, or if they're bald. I can see whether they're thin or whether they have a lot of weight. I can see all of that. But I've got some defect in my brain or in my eye that I won't see their race. I can see everything else, but I can't see that. And I'm telling you that to make you happy and comfortable, to make you feel safe with me. I don't see my privilege. I don't have any privilege. And I'm using all the privilege that I have to not see to show you how much privilege I don't have. Don't you like me more? That's what we hear.
Thank you.
That's what we hear. Breathe that in for a moment. Breathe it in. And it's a double irony coming from people who demand to be seen all the time, for whom not being seen is not acceptable. At all. Who for a moment cannot tolerate the idea that somehow or another they've been marginalized or discriminated against, or their needs haven't been provided for, not for an ounce of a second. It's just extraordinary, the imbalance. Don't do it. Don't do it. So take another breath. We're going to process this some, and next time we're going to go into more of how this marginalization works, more of how in this otherness, there's a bit of a dehumanization that takes place, which becomes part of that way we deal with the cognitive dissonance. There's no real oneness there. These aren't really people, they're just the homeless. These aren't really people, these are illegal aliens. These aren't really people, they're criminals. These aren't really people, they're terrorists. These aren't really people, they're this, they're that. Which enables this to then get away from the oneness. We're going to go there the next time that we get together. Agreed. I'm going to start first with the phone. And anybody, phones or video, anybody that hasn't already shared something, if you want to chime in now, some reactions or ahas. Or anybody, how about, do we have some in the chat room?
It's Elizabeth was chatting during your speaking.
Okay. Anybody on the phone want to unmute?
Hi, this is Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Julie.
Hi. You know, I'm kind of speechless, but at the same time, it's like, Rev, we got to take this on the road. Reverend Deborah, I don't know. It would be tragic. My life would be tragic if I didn't know this. And so the depth of gratitude is just like, it's just huge. I think one of the most important things for me was that if I, you know, in understanding the historical background, it was essential for me to be able to move forward and then tying it into your deepest intent, the need to fix, the disassociation from the pain, you know, putting that together and everyone acting on their own self-interest, it was like, God, it makes so much sense, and I can identify then. I don't identify with the pain of people of color. But when you put it in a context where I can identify, then I can stop trying to get my ego involved, and I can have more compassion. I can have more understanding. I'm just beyond blown away, beyond grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else on the phones or online or chat room that hasn't already shared that wants to give a comment?
Hi, this is Marcia. Can you hear me?
Hi, Marcia.
Hi. I also want to thank you and just ditto whatever that last person just said. But I just had a personal aha in terms of my own level of denial, because I'm one of those people that you're talking about. Not that I don't see color, because I see color, but just very progressive, very think that I'm beyond the issue of racism on some level, which I am not, clearly. But many years ago, about 25 years ago at Agape, I was at a meeting with somebody who we were both in choir at the time, so we kind of knew each other, but we were in another meeting that was about social justice. And I made a comment. I can't even remember the comment itself, but what I realized today, and this woman got so angry at me, and I started crying, and I left the meeting shaking. I was like so upset, like I, as a white person, felt so misunderstood because I was trying to say something that I thought was helpful. But what I realized today was the way I said it was a way of separation by just saying they, just using the word they, I think was the trigger for this other person. I can't be certain, but just the way I'm looking at it today from this new vantage point, I see how unconscious that separation is, no matter how I think that I'm in the one, that I am a product of our culture, and that I have to just be more and more and more aware of that so that I can transform it in my own life. So I really want to thank you for that, because this is something that, has been in the back of my mind for 25 years. And it's like, I feel like I had a little healing in just seeing my own deep level of denial, dissociation from that privilege. So thank you.
Yes. Very good. You know, what I find is helpful, and even though it's not a model that I like to use all the time, but it works for me, is that model of a family, like a functional family, if you can imagine one, where it becomes a we. So let's say, for example, you're planning a vacation and you have a multi-generational family. It's not a lot of them and they. It's like, where are we going to go on vacation? Some of us are kids. Some of us are elderly. You know, some of us have special needs, you know, like dietary needs. But it's not a bunch of them and they. It's me, it's us, it's all of us. Where can we go so that all of our needs are met? So you supersize that. And to me, it's not, you know, like those prisoners. It's those of us who are incarcerated. You know, those of us who don't have homes. Those of us who are immigrants and don't have our working papers. Those of us who are coming from very traditional, conservative, fundamentalist backgrounds. It's not them or they. Those of us, not them, those people that are voting for this one, but those of us. Those of us that are lost, those of us that are addicted. And also celebrating in the glory. You know, those of us that are in recovery, those of us that are graduating, you know, and going from school, you know, those of us that are in love and starting new families, you know, those of us, so that it creates a different kind of sense of awareness. And it stops being so them and they. When it comes from a different place of us. Yeah. So what about in the room? Are there some people who haven't shared today that want to say something?
I hate being that close.
What's your name?
Hi. So I'm Leah, and I grew up, you know, in an upper middle class family, first here in Northern California and then Southern California. And I always thought, you know, I grew up kind of like Marcia said, you know, my family was very open, you know, not racist in any way. We had gay friends and people of different races were part of our family always. So I think I grew up kind of like in that cloud that was just, you know, the way things were. I mean, it was never said, oh, we don't see color, but that's kind of the way I felt like everybody was equal. And went through college. I lived in a big city and I was in the fashion industry. So I had friends of all kinds. And it wasn't until I got in recovery and I went back to college to wrap up my business degree, and I took a general ed class, sociology, called Race, Class, and Gender. And I was like, what? What is that about? You know, where it was the first time I'd heard of race consciousness and white privilege. And I mean, it was appalling. And I think shortly after that was when I met you. So I changed my whole degree. I started college over at 30 and went through with a sociology degree and social change and my master's. But, you know, I have a feeling that there's a huge part of society that thinks this way, that I'm not racist, I'm not bigoted, I'm open, you know, and that's enough. And to not go the step further to really understand, or like you say, that just saying, oh, I don't know what privilege is a privilege itself.
Exactly.
You know, like for me to be able to say, oh yeah, I got gay friends and I got black friends, and you know, yeah. So it was just, you know, such and it's. I think it's good to remember that that's the way so many people operate. That it's not out of malice, or you know, that it's just this ignorance. And I mean, I was 30. I was completely ignorant, and I think the first wave of it is a little bit of shame and guilt, like how could I have, you know, missed all of that? But then doing things like this and becoming part of the solution and part of a vision of something different, I appreciate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to clarify. I want to clarify about what this don't say. It's okay to admit what you don't know. It's okay to say, you know, I'm unaware, I wasn't aware, I didn't see it, you know, even I don't get it, that's okay. But it's where you are putting forth the fact that you don't see as a merit badge. Right. That's supposed to bring comfort, that as a way of being you don't see. That's what I'm talking about. And what I would ask most people to do, well, not most, what I would ask all of us to do, before we get off on the why are they always complaining about this, or what's up with them, or why are they so loud, or what's all that, you know, commotion about, or they're just angry, or they're just violent, it's just to really ask yourself, what are they so mad about?
Wow.
And why didn't I see it?
Oh, it was like,
what do they see that I don't see? You got to be pretty mad to go there. So, like, what is it? I mean, even 9/11. How many people really just ask themselves? That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. They didn't pick the United States off the yellow pages. The Pentagon, the White House, the World Trade Center, I don't know. You know, when crimes are committed, they usually got some motivation or some connection to these targets. Like, what the hell? What's going on? We never stop to ask the question. Oh, why were they so mad? What are they so mad about? Even now, quote unquote, all these terrorists, what the hell are they so mad about? And if we were to really ask ourselves, what are they so mad about? We'd come up with some different conclusions, rather than they're just bad people wanting to bomb everything because, you know, they don't like our way of life. They don't like that we like apple pie. I said, no, people are mad about something. And if you look at it once again, that family, your family's being torn apart, bombing each other up. At some point, you're going to say, what the hell are people so mad about? What? What is the pain? What? Then that means you're going to feel it and share it with them. And that's what people don't want to do. They want to stay anesthetized, sanitized, homogenized, and pasteurized. I don't want to see it because I'm going to have to feel some of that pain. I don't want to feel my own pain, and so I sure as hell don't want to feel yours. We'll take a couple more. It's getting 1 o'clock here.
Yeah, I was probably 13 years old when I came. Oh, my name is Beverly. I was probably 13 years old when I first recognized in my community of people like Leah was talking about. Good people who thought they weren't racist and yada yada. And I saw that happening. And when I brought it to the attention of my peers, no, that's not what's happening. And then it was validated later. But I've gone through my life finding places in myself. I've written pages about it, where I came across my own cognitive dissonances and had
to painfully deal with them. And often didn't have any support with people around me until now. And, you know, like years and years later, I was probably somewhere around 60. And I got up one morning, I looked in the mirror, and my first thought was, I'm white. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't have the language for it yet. I'd never heard of white privilege, but I knew that's what it was. It didn't matter what color my skin was when I went out in the world today. It wasn't going to make any difference. And those are the kind of things that I've wrestled with. I've tried to bring attention to other people. And I'm so thankful that now we have kind of a welling up of people across the racial area, across the gay spectrum, whatever it is, that we can share those places with and share our pain and our shame, because it is shameful when you first come across that. I didn't think I had that. Well, yeah. And I have to admit, it can still happen. So, for whatever that is, it's just good being with people that are wanting to be part of that welling up, of bringing people together.
Yes.
Of being willing to reach out and hold someone else's hand, whether we agree with them or not.
Amen. Yeah, you can't heal what you don't feel.
Yeah.
So the fact that you feel it, don't let that bother you.
I come from a different perspective. I come from a racist state. And and I know like I've telling you, I spoke before, we was talked about, but I couldn't understand, me being a small child, as 4 years old, start getting understanding. And I'm looking up saying, I'm not really saying it this way. You know, you're seeing this racial divide, but we all love God. This is white and black. Saying we love God, especially the white race. It would hurt my heart so much that I said, I can't stay here once I'm just praying to get out of there. Because I know it's something better than where I was. So as I was going up, I didn't talk to anybody. I really didn't talk. Really, tell you the truth. And I would go out in the woods, talk to the animal, hearing the bird, the creek running, I'm saying, and you want the peace you can find in yourself, or the peace you can find. I found peace in that. And I had to talk to myself saying, I'm getting out of here one day. And I would see the plane flying. And I said, I gotta go to find this cover. So when I came, my first getting out of Mississippi was I was 13 years old. When I came to New Brunswick, New Jersey with my auntie, my dad's baby sister. And see, to understand, when you go, we went to a movie, right? It was all black. The black sat down at the bottom, white upstairs. No, the white was down the bottom, he was upstairs. And so my auntie had a community of all race people in, and she had me to meet some of the kids that she had brought in the neighborhood. I was scared to death because it was white and all different other color races, but I had never seen, other than just white. But Puerto Rican, she said, yeah, baby. And she said, they're going to take you to the movie. So we go, and I'm looking for upstairs. And they said, no, you can sit with us. I said, really? So I'm scared to death because I've never been among white sitting with them. And I said, okay. I said, this is the way it's supposed to be. And that's when I got my life to say, when I get there, I'm so grateful to be here among you guys, everybody, that we can share, all race can come together as one. And I'm grateful for Reverend Deborah bringing this up because I had never studied social justice. And I'm getting a clearer, more understanding of it. And from speaking of what she's speaking in, for relating to what we should be knowing as the truth. So I'm glad to be a part of the oneness and the truth.
Very good. I know that it's one and people have to go. I saw Kim's hand there. I want to honor that.
I'll be very brief. I feel like we have to remove our own blinders and get on board with with the idea and concept of those of us.
I love that.
We are them. We are us. That every sentient being on this planet, we're all in this together. Period. Period. And until we open our own eyes, and until we awaken to this concept and remove our blinders, we're not able to help others.
Exactly.
So we need to get there quick, jump over all the stories and the nonsense, get there and get moving forward.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Nancy, did you want to say something before we
Oh,
close
I
out?
just wanted to say it quite moving to me when she first got here and she joined the choir for a while.
Mhm.
And she stood up in the choir and said that she'd always dreamed about this, and I had just taken it for granted. We were all mixed up. And you just really, really moved me with your speech.
Mhm. Yeah, good work. Good work, everybody. Really, really, really good work. I'm going to ask you as a bit of a take-home assignment. I know most of you have a copy of it, The Sacred Yes, the other volume in the series we read today from volume 2, from volume 1, the letter on conflict resolution. Conflict resolution. That letter came actually just like days after 9/11. Okay? All right, so we do a little, oh, I see Elizabeth's hand.
Yes. About blind spots and cognitive dissonance.
Can you come speak up a little bit?
Yeah. So about the blind spots that we have and the cognitive dissonance. So I've been trying to, so I come from a broken family. And when I started to kind of wake up and see things, I realized that I had parents and family who did not want to look at the uncomfortable stuff. So, and I'm thinking, how I tried for I tried for over 30 years to make my parents and the entire family, see, and they would not. And I'm thinking, how do we get people to see this? This is people who went to their graves so ignorant.
The answer is the answer that Jesus gave. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. It is not our job to get people to see. Even Jesus couldn't get people to see. Even Jesus understood that he was going to say some stuff that some people weren't going to get. We just have to give it freely. Give it freely. When you speak, just speak. Don't have so much attachment on who needs to hear what you have to say. Just say it. Just start saying it. And the people who want to hear it will gravitate towards you. Just start saying it, and then the audiences that most need to hear it will hear it. But we cannot have attachment on who we think needs to get it or not get it. And our trying to make them get it usually makes them more entrenched and not wanting to get it.
Yeah.
So let that go, shine your light, and just see who's attracted to your light. All right? And on that, let's stand and let's sing about our light. Sing about our light. This inner light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
That's right.
We do that?
Yes.
This inner light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this inner light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This inner light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let us take this consciousness and multiply it.